It was the first week where I realized I did have control over my eating. I didn't have to walk into the pantry and eat because I had just survived a whole week where I barely ate or drank anything at all. And that cycle was broken. That habit of snacking, even when I didn't want to, was broken. And so that's when I decided, okay, now that I've learned how not to eat, not to just be at the mercy of my impulses, now I can start this journey.
In 2014, Jason went from 225 pounds to 145 pounds in just 9 months. And he's kept it off for the past 10 years. In fact, at 52 years old, he has a physique of a boxer in his prime. Now, Jason is a former Navy rescue squadron member. He's got the mental toughness to diet on a 750 calories a day, train hard, and, well, never look back. But now, at 52, he's sick of the plateau, and he has a new goal in mind, adding 10 pounds of muscle and finally hitting 225 pounds on the bench press. But the catch? It means eating more, losing his abs for the first time in a decade, and facing the mental battle that comes with it. Now, in this episode, we talk about how extreme weight loss shaped his relationship with food and body image, why visible abs have become a mental anchor and a barrier for him, 2 different strategies to gain muscle without losing his mind, the trade-off between doing it right and doing it safe, and how to set progression targets when you're already close to your potential. I hope you enjoyed this episode. When did you first find the website? How do you know about me? Oh, the website, the business.
I saw an Instagram post that you did, and it was just one of your quick videos. And you were talking about this common sense approach to diet and how to manage your calories. You were the first person that talked about what I had done, that I had seen online. Everybody else is, they're yelling and screaming, or they're being super aggressive, or they're trying to sell you something. And you were just talking this common sense, and you were calm and rational. I was like, this is the most refreshing take I've ever seen. And it's actually what I did. It was some validation that what I did worked, and here's why it worked. And so then I went to your website and found your podcast and started listening to your podcast and looking at the website, and just like, your advice is so grounded in just true techniques. And I think your personality came through as someone that wasn't trying to take advantage of people. You were here to help, and your services were value for what you gave them, and not trying to sell them a magic pill. And so I just really appreciated your approach to that.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know of the transformation that you're talking about. In fact, I'm staring at the photos right here. Pretty incredible. So 2014, you go from 225 pounds to 145 pounds, and you sustain it. You're 5'11". And so people listening might think 5'11", 145 pounds. Well, that sounds a bit skinny. I promise you, if you're listening on a pod now and you go to YouTube at this timestamp, you will say, like, Jason looks like a boxer about to get into the ring in the prime for his weight class. And I know you're into your boxing. Like, you are in incredible, incredible shape. What sparked the change? How did you do it?
I was at a place when I was at 225 pounds, I had pretty much lost myself. I was in a pretty severe depression, and I had always identified with boxing and being active. And I felt like I'd kind of lost who I was. And, I would, every day I'd drive home from work, and I'd be like, I'm not going to snack. I'm going to work out, and I'm going to do right. And I would zombie walk to the pantry and down a bag of potato chips and eat a brownie and drink a Diet Coke. And then I might work out, or I might go lay on a bed until it was time to cook dinner. It was up in the air. I had this one event that really devastated me. And for a week, I had 1 glass of water and a protein bar. It's about, if you picture your average Snickers bar, it's about half the size of a Snickers bar, and it's a protein bar. It's junk. It's not, if I looked at it now, I'd never eat it because of all the bad ingredients in it. But I had about half of that and a glass of water for about 7 days. Was all I could eat or drink because I was so emotionally distraught during that 1 week. I lost 15 pounds in that week, not the right way, not the way you want to do it. But at the end of this week, as I was getting through it and Noticed my pants are loose. I noticed that my stomach had shrunk some. It was the first week where I realized I did have control over my eating. I didn't have to walk into the pantry and eat because I had just survived a whole week where I barely ate or drank anything at all. And that cycle was broken. That habit of snacking, even when I didn't want to, was broken. And so that's when I decided, okay, now that I've learned how not to eat, not to just be at the mercy of my impulses, now I can start this journey.
And so that's when you decided that you were going to go and seek out more horrific life events. And if you just string 4 of those together, then bam, you'll be 80 pounds down.
Yeah. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone. That's not the way to do it.
That sounds, well, I mean, you said everything there with the fact that you just had a protein bar and a glass of water. You must have been dehydrated as hell.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure. I know that by the end of that week, if I tried to do a workout, because I wasn't active during that week at all either. If I tried to do a workout during that time, I probably would have just passed out. It was pretty much a lay in bed, sip of water, take one tiny little bite of a protein bar, and that was it for the week. But then at the end of that week, whenever I was able to process things, I know it was like get busy living or get busy dying. It's like you either, it's time to check out or it's time to get to it.
Yeah.
And even though I had always been a boxer and worked out, I'd always had that fluffy midsection. I'd never been able to see abs, even when I was a kid. I was a chunky kid. And I just thought, I'm not that person. I'm not that body type. You see people that are naturally skinny or naturally have abs. And I'm like, I'm always going to be that guy that is just fluffy. And I was like, this time we're just going to see. Instead of eating the potato chips and drinking all the Cokes and eating all the snacks, we're going to tighten this up. I went too far. I lost the 80 pounds in about 9 months.
Wow.
I was on 750 calories a day, and I was working out hard. I didn't have a bar or plates, but I had adjustable dumbbells and a bench. So I was doing my weightlifting that way, which I'm not going quite as heavy as I am now because of the equipment I have now. But I was also doing boxing workouts and other HIIT style, high intensity workouts. And in that 9 months, I actually got all the way down to around 138. And it's kind of a funny story at work. For your insurance, you get a discount if they check your vitals and do draw blood and tell you where you're at.
Oh, really?
And yeah.
Okay.
And,
yeah. All right. Yeah.
And at 225, my blood pressure was sky high. I was pre-diabetic. My heart rate was high. All the bad markers. And this was, at the time I'm 38, 42 years old, in that range. And so after I've lost all this weight and I'm 138, I have probably about 8% body fat. You could see everything. I was very defined. They took all my blood. They checked all the cholesterol. They checked all the blood pressure. Perfect. It's like a 20-year-old, right? Yeah. I walked out of there feeling the best I've ever felt. I go in the bathroom, feeling like I got to take a leak. It's pure blood. And I was like, well, this is new. And it just wasn't like colored urine. It was bright red, like I just slaughtered a chicken in there.
Oh, right. And, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And so
what caused that?
What I figured out was I was at such low calories and I was working out so hard that I was breaking down my muscle,
right?
And it was getting into the bloodstream. I went and got my bladder checked, like for bladder cancer, clear as a whistle, nothing in there. Checked all the other vitals, nothing. And then once I added calories back, it stopped. I'd got to the point where I was breaking my own muscle tissue down because my calories were so low. And plus 750 calories a day is just miserable. I was used to it, but it was still miserable. And I was like, okay, now it's time for another readjustment. I spent 9 months at 750 calories a day and working out hard. I've got all the body fat off. Now it's time to get strong. And
okay, so this makes sense. That it happened towards the end, because if you're already shredded lean, your body, but you're still in a calorie deficit, your body just has no fat to access, or so little fat to access, and it has no choice but to break down the muscle in order to fuel itself, which is why technically we can go with larger calorie deficits at the start of a diet because there's more fat to access, and we should take things slower towards the end. I say technically because practically, even though someone could lose, let's say someone with a lot of weight to lose. So you were 225, you might have been, say, 30% body fat. I don't know. I'm just throwing out a number here. At that point, you could have potentially lost 3 pounds per week. Not that I'd ever recommend it, but 3 pounds per week of fat. And if you were strength training and keeping your protein number up, you probably not at risk of losing any muscle tissue for a while. And then you would have had to slow things down. Now, of course, most people wouldn't be able to sustain that. The vast majority, 99% of people just simply cannot sustain that, which is why we recommend going with steadier rates of weight loss. Let's say we say something like 0.5 to 0.75 pounds per week, which would work out in your case to like 1 to 1.5 pounds of weight loss per week, and then perhaps tapering that towards the end. So everything you've just said, that makes sense. The thing that I'm not quite understanding is, how did you manage to get, I understand how you lost it, say, for those first 4 months, but how did you manage to get so lean without the hunger and the fatigue just getting so bad that you couldn't continue? Normally, these things just flare up and we, if necessary, the body will sleepwalk us to the fridge to find a donut.
I think it was a combination of the 750 calories. Most of that was protein, very little carbs, very little fat. I allowed myself like 3 almonds a day, and I made those suckers last. And I would suck on one almond for like 30 minutes. I cherish that thing. But I think it was a combination of my headspace, of what I had been through. And I was just so determined to not go back to eating the way that I ate, because I associated how I looked and how I ate with the emotional state that I was in. And so I was determined not to do that. And I have a pretty strong, like if we go mountain climbing, I'm not going to let the mountain beat me. I'm going to climb it. And so now I've got a personal thing against this mountain, and I'm not going to get tired, and I'm going to hit a pace, and I'm going to stick to it. If it kills me, I'm going to stick to it. And which is why I can't go mountain climbing with people anymore, because they get frustrated because I don't wait on them. I think that's what got me through it, it was all protein. So I was giving my muscles enough protein to synthesize growth, or at least not lose it, until it got to the point where I had no body fat left to give. And that's when it started eating my muscles. And then I started peeing straight blood there for a few weeks.
You are what we call an unusually hard bastard, aren't you? Were you in the military by any chance?
I was actually, yeah.
I thought so. Yeah, okay. What was your job?
I was in Navy aviation. I was in a helicopter rescue squadron in San Diego in the Navy, and then went out in the Mojave Desert into a weapons test squadron. But really just did that. My wife and I had a young son right out of high school, and we wanted to get away and be on our own and not be dependent on anyone. So it wasn't so much I'm a tough guy, I'm going to join the military. It was I got to get out of the house, and here's how I do it.
Wow. Okay. Well, you don't get to do that job without certainly a lot of training and mental toughness.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Not the rescue teams, because your job's to go into the shittest of shit situations. How long ago was that? That was 2014. So probably turning into 2015. We're now 10 years later. For context, I should have said to people, was it 50? Did you say you're 51 years old?
Yeah, I'll be 52 this month in just a few days.
All right. Well, happy birthday for then.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, so still in incredible shape. Like I can see from the shoulders. Are you of a similar body fat percentage? In fact, the photo that you sent me, is that a recent photo?
Yes, it is. That's from a few months ago, so that's pretty recent.
Yeah, okay, I'll flash that. So, and sorry, I should have confirmed. May we share this?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. So,
Sure.
Yeah, I'll flash that on the screen again. Okay, so for 10 years, you've managed to sustain this incredible physique. Where do we go from here? What is your goal from here?
My goal is twofold. I want to gain about 10 pounds of lean muscle, because it's kind of like what you said at the beginning. Whenever I tell people I'm 143 pounds, 144 pounds, they look at me like I'm crazy. And they're like, well, that's way too little. I think I have like small frame, like my wrists are a little small. So maybe my skeleton's not as heavy as other people's. No, but because I don't look like I'm 143 pounds.
No.
That's not what people picture.
No, you don't. No. Well, this is part of the surprise, right? Well, everyone thinks that they need to be 200 pounds. The shit test of this that I say to people is to, go and look at weight class boxers, right? And tell me that they don't look incredible at their body weight, right?
Right.
And then look at those body weights and heights and then compare yourself. So like, just put this in perspective, and then you just got to say, these are elite athletes, okay? People would look at you in a t-shirt like now and they'll be like, oh, this guy is in shape. He clearly looks after himself. And especially, if I may say, at 51, like there are not many 51-year-olds in your shape, like 1 in 1,000 kind of thing. Plus, when you say the weight, people would expect you to be 180, right? They've just frankly got no idea, right? They just have this idea that 145 is super, super light and skinny, which is quite often a battle that, I wouldn't say a battle, but an interesting conversation that I have with clients and also prospective clients when I tell them at what weight they might be and where we might go with our weight through the, say, cutting, bulking, recomping phases. They can get a bit they can get a bit concerned, You want to be, so you're 145-ish pounds right now. You'd love to gain. Did you come onto this point, or am I just remembering what I read?
Yeah, I'd like to get about 10 pounds of lean muscle, but there's one lift that is the one thing that I can't accomplish. I've accomplished pretty much everything I've wanted to with this. I've always had a weak bench press, and the bench press is, it's the lift. It's what you're judged by. And even though I work out by myself, I'm judging me in the mirror. And
Jason, come on. When was the last time someone asked you how much you bench?
No one ever has. No one ever has.
Right.
But it was a goal that I set for myself. It was a goal, the average is 225, right? Like the 225 is the magic number. If you hit that.
Listen, my friend, the average is not 225.
Well,
okay. Okay, that's the magic number. Yeah. Point taken.
Yeah,
This is a goal.
For the longest time, I just had adjustable dumbbells. And I was doing even leg day. I had a weighted vest, but just adjustable dumbbells. So I wasn't getting that full strength building. I was more toning than strength building. So I invested in a straight bar, invested in plates, got the squat rack, got the bench for doing the bar bench press. Started out light on both back bar squat and bench press. That's 135 just to start out. That hurt my back really bad while I was in the Navy. So I was being careful because I crunched it up really good. My squat.
You didn't fall out of a helicopter, did you?
No, I didn't. Okay, all right. It was trying to impress my kid. Flipping over a couch, came straight down my tailbone.
No, it's always the stupid stuff, isn't it? Right?
Yes, it is.
Oh, your boss must have been pissed, right? Because you're worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars at that point in training.
They never knew. Even though my wife had to tie my boots every morning, I would just shuffle my feet because the last thing you want to do is go to Navy doctors, So I just kept it quiet and just. I was in pain. I was in pain. It was tough.
Okay.
My squats and my deadlifts have improved quite a bit, especially for my size. To only be 144 pounds. I can do 4 sets of 8 reps of 335 pounds on back bar squat, which to me at 51 feels pretty good.
It's damn good. Yes. Well done. Yes.
The deadlift's a little lagging behind. I work with 265 for 4 sets of 8, and I'm struggling at the end of those 8 reps, but it's starting to get a little easier. My bench press just refuses to come along. For whatever reason, my max 1 rep is 185. That's what I feel safe doing a max 1 rep at. My working sets are like 160. I can do 6 to 7 reps at 160, but 185 is my 1 rep max. So my goal is, how do I increase 40 pounds to at least say I did 225 once in my life? Can I gain that strength plus gain the 10 pounds of lean muscle mass? Is that something that's at my age that I can do?
The most obvious thing here that we should say is that you haven't been feeding your body the calorie surplus needed to grow. And so you may well have come to a point where your technique is damn near as locked in as it's ever going to be. Not that it's ever actually perfect, as many of my even record-breaking powerlifting friends will say, they're still learning. And I do believe that having this open learning mindset is valuable for everyone, which is why I'm saying it here. But, there are diminishing returns, right? So your technique is damn good. You've made the most of what your muscle, let me put this another way. Your muscle mass is then the limiting factor. And the only way that you're going to get more muscle mass at this point is by gaining weight, because you've got no fat to lose, right? That's what you need to do there. And of course, we could dive into your training and I could say to you, well, what is your current progression scheme? Have you been adjusting the loading? In what way have you been doing that? Have you been trying the lower rep ranges? Because you mentioned about sets of 8. How has that felt on your shoulders, et cetera, et cetera. But that would be focusing on the small pebbles. And we want to look at the one big obvious rock that's staring us in the face here. And that is, you're going to need to gain weight if you're going to be able to add 40 pounds to your bench at this point. And 40 pounds to your bench at this point is going to be an increase of about 20-ish, 25%, right, of your bench press 1 rep max. Really, the question is, are you prepared to do what it takes to do that?
And, I've listened to your other podcasts where you tell people we're going to have to put some fat on you. You're going to have to eat a little more to gain the weight. And it scares me to death. Right now, I eat 2,200 calories a day. I'm pretty dialed in on that. That's my maintenance. That keeps me at 144. I'm getting about 160 grams of protein. And honestly, Andy, that 2,200 calories fills me up. Like I'm struggling to hit that number without feeling like I'm overeating.
Okay.
So at 2,200 calories a day, if I'm doing like a year to get this muscle and a year to get this strength, at least close to that, how much more calories would I need in an average a day? You think what would it take?
If I didn't know anything about you and I were giving general advice, it would be to aim to gain 2 pounds a month for the next 10 months, right? That's going to put 20 pounds on your frame and then cut down. And at your age and level of training, frankly, you may gain 5 pounds of muscle, 6 pounds of muscle there. You might. I don't think expecting 50-50 is reasonable because you are much further along your genetic potential curve than the average person here, okay? However, I think if you were to gain 20 pounds of weight, you're going to gain that fat. You're going to lose your abs for the first time now in 10 years. That may be too tough for you to swallow. I don't know, but that's a question really for you to consider. Because there is another way that I have in mind here, which is what I would not recommend. The surest fire way is the one that I've just said. And how do you feel about this option A first before we take a peek at option B?
I gave a mini try on option A after I listened to your podcast and read your articles, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have to eat more. And I got up to around 150 this winter and gained a little bit of strength. And my abs had gotten to where they were just visible. They're in the right lighting, and if I turned the right way, I could still see them. So I was like checking in on them. But it was getting to mess with me because, again, mental health is tied to how this midsection looks for whatever reason. So now that I've cut back down this summer to the picture you just saw, I've noticed I did gain a little bit of muscle. I've gained a little more on my shoulders and in my chest. But option B sounds like the one I would love to hear.
Well, yeah, the one you'd love to hear. You don't know what option B is yet, but yeah. We can talk about option B, but if there is a way to break your mental well-being from your abs, how your abs look, I think that's really going to be key here to meaningful progress. And that, unfortunately, is outside of my expertise. How to coach you around that. Like, I'm not really a mindset coach on that. And I know there are people out there that know about these things, though. I mean, we can say the simple things of like, for the average person, we focus on a different metric. We focus on strength going up. We're happy that this is just a temporary sacrifice. We accept that we are going to gain, roughly, let's count this up, 4, 4, 5, 2.5, 3 inches on the stomach on average over the course of the year, which we will then cut off again. And we just accept that. And we talk to those around us so that they know what we're doing, so that they know what to expect, so that the comments or the worry then don't come our way, which can, again, niggle in our minds. But also being clear on what it is that we're doing and why, so that when comments come from random people who don't know what we're doing, like, oh, put on a bit of weight there, Jason, that they don't bother us as well, because we're super locked in and confident with what we're doing. Okay, but let's set that aside for a moment. Let's look at option B. You said you're struggling to eat 2,200 calories. I would go with 2,300 calories. I know you said you're struggling there. You've mentioned about cleaning up your diet. You mentioned about the ingredients in the protein bar that would be, I don't know if you said bad for you. I imagine what you're eating, 2,200 calories, if you're always feeling really full. And that's a fantastic thing. You're eating a diet that's got a fairly good variety of fruits and vegetables, or fruits and vegetables dominate your diet along with lean protein, perhaps dairy, just stuff from the outside of the supermarket, right? The refrigerated sections, rather than the stuff in the middle of the supermarket. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So if hunger really does become a battle, then just allowing yourself some kind of treat that you wouldn't normally, as long as that's not going to kick off a cascade of bad decisions, but allowing yourself that sweet treat or whatever it is that you would be able to eat down, something highly calorie dense without feeling guilty about it, that's going to really help you out. Because, just because we had something that is quote unquote not a health food doesn't mean that it's unhealthy for us given the context of the diet. Because we're not going to get extra health points here from eating another 150 calories of quote unquote healthy food, right? We've already got our nutritional basis covered and potentially more, right? We're filling all of our micronutritional needs as well. So we would be okay if you had a small tub of Ben and Jerry's, for example, which maybe about 150 calories, which is what we need every night. And I say that actually, in all seriousness, it could actually be as simple as that. And yes, this is someone like me who's recommending potentially a little tub of Ben and Jerry's, not the pint tub, but you know what I mean? It can just be as simple as that. Now, the challenge is going to be from here that seeing the rate of weight change, it's going to be slower than the 2 pounds a month. Because what we want here is a very slow rate of weight change that allows you to very slowly progress with your lifts. And it is going to be slow, so you're going to have to be okay with that. That's the difference here. And the problem will be if you're looking at the scale weight with very slow rates of gain, it's very difficult to detect because the noise in the data is larger than the signal. The best way of visualizing this that I know would be Greg Knuckles' graph that he has within his macro factor app. It's not just Greg's, I'm not being rude to the team there, but I'm pretty sure he's the one behind the algorithm that plots that in for people. And so for very slow rates of weight gain, I think this is the way forward. It's going to plot your weight and you're going to see the large fluctuations there. I'm wiggling my finger for anyone listening and not watching. But you will see a very slow upward tick. And then this is also going to clue you into where this plateaus, because it is going to plateau at some point. And because you are going to be a slightly bigger person, your not resting energy expenditure, but your NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, your, how can I say, all of the non-planned activity that you do in the day, this is going to ramp up. Right, your propensity to take the stairs instead of the elevator, the amount of fidgeting that you do, this is going to go up as a compensatory mechanism due to the calorie increase, because your body's going to try and keep you where you are. So I'd raise calories by 150. I'd download that app if you're not averse to it. I would use that graph that it has. And at the point that it looks like you've stopped gaining any weight, nudge your calories up slightly more, maybe by 100. The downside of this is it's a much slower way of going about things. And it may simply end up in the same result in terms of the ratio of muscle to fat gain. It may. So that's option B. But I think given everything you've said, if you cannot break this tie, with your abs and your self-confidence, how you feel about yourself, that might be the way to go.
Yeah, I think I could probably give option A. If I'm feeling stronger and seeing increases in my lifts, that might be enough to overcome the mental panic of seeing the midsection disappear. Totally, the intellectual side completely understands
Yeah.
option A. It just, the emotional side wants to reject it. Yeah, it's just nope. But I think if I was able to see that progress, yeah, and be able to see I'm starting to add little weight on the bar more and more, because one thing I do know is that I can cut it off.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I've increased my weight a little bit during this 10 years, fluctuated, trying to build a little size and strength, and I can cut it off easily. I know I can do that. I've proven that to myself. So maybe I am ready for option A.
This is another way to view things. You are clearly a very committed and very serious guy, and you certainly don't seem like someone who takes half measures. Honestly, option B is a half measure here.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I kind of felt that as you were describing it. I was like, it's not being as committed as option A would be.
How are you going about trying to progress your lift, or how did you go about it until your lifts stalled out? Was it just a case of trying to add weight to the bar whenever you could, or were you adjusting any other variables there?
I started working heavier in the earlier sets. In like my first two sets, I was in the 2 to 3 rep range. And then I would finish sets with a lighter load to try to get a little bit of volume. So I was trying to progress that way. And that seemed to be slowly adding. That's gotten me to where the 185, because I haven't been at 185 for very long.
Mm-hmm.
So it was heavier earlier sets, lighter late sets is the strategy I've been trying lately.
Yeah, that makes sense. And strength is specific to a movement and also a rep range. If you are training with a low number of reps, then this is going to help you get stronger in that rep range, right? So
Right.
it certainly makes sense that this has helped improve your 1 rep max. If this is currently working for you, then I would absolutely recommend that you stay with that. And what I wouldn't recommend is that you train without a plan at this point. Have some form of plan for progression, because things are not going to simply increase week to week, even with a rate of weight gain of 0.5 pound a week, or roughly that, so 2-ish pounds per month. So if you go to, and for anyone listening, ripbody.com/progression, you'll see our progression guidelines on there. There'll be some slight updates when we release the 3rd editions of the Muscle and Strength Pyramid books, which should be before the end of the year, I'll say. Kind of finishing those up now, and the guidelines are a little bit simpler for that, but they will still work. So make sure you're going in with a plan. And what I'll say is it's very important for your strength in the long term that you gain size. And so the temptation here could be cut the number of reps that you're doing in your sets so that you're prioritizing strength more and getting stronger as a result. But what that's doing is making the most out of your current muscle mass. It's not training so that you are gaining muscle, which is going to drive the potential to be able to lift more in the future. So make sure that you do have a mix there of a set or two per week, or a few sets perhaps in the lower rep ranges, but the majority should probably be in those higher rep ranges, somewhere between 6 to 15, and probably, frankly, 7 to 10, something like that. Yeah. Because people can cheat themselves unknowingly. They can cut the number of reps that they do and they can get stronger that way, but that's not actually helping them over the long term. So that's just another thing that I'll point out there. Yeah. So I think we've got a plan.
Yeah.
Any outstanding questions here?
No, I think we've covered it all, and I'm happy to hear about that 3rd edition. It sounds like it'd be about right timing for me.
Yeah. I'm excited to get them out. It's very difficult to predict when, so I'm always hesitant to say. All I can say is I'm going back through with the 2nd round of edits now, and we're nearly done with those. It's taking its time because I broke my right arm, hence why I'm wearing the jinbei, which is actually a traditional Japanese summer wear, but I can appreciate it does look like a dressing gown. But that's my right arm, and I'm right-handed, so it's taking its time. Yeah, we're coming towards the end, and then it's a case of getting all the visuals ready, the layout done, work on Amazon done, website done, chapter titles, pages, covers. Whew, so much stuff. Always
I
takes longer than you
understand.
think, but very
I
excited
wrote
to
a
get them out
children's
for
book
sure.
and I wrote a children's book and my edits, I thought every time I thought I was done with an edit, there was another one and they just never end.
Yeah.
Like 20 edits later, I'm still working on it.
Yeah. Yeah. You still fight. It is funny, isn't it? There's a thing that I'm always finding something. It's like, oh, so I've got an N dash between numbers here, but I was using a hyphen between numbers there. And I'm like, oh shit. So that means I now need to go through 600, 700 pages across both books and make sure that it's exactly the same. And then another thing I found yesterday was the titles of the graphs, some of them were all caps and some of them were just the titles case. So now I've got to go make it match. And then, some of them are 18 font and some of them are 16 font. Damn it. Things that you think you're getting right at the time, but then you just realize you haven't. So then you just, Hey.
Yep.
And sure, someone's thinking, oh, AI can do that. It's like, yeah, really? Can it? Are you going to trust the AI on the book and potentially misses something? Ah, dear. Well, hey, anyway, look, Jason, I most appreciate you coming on. Thank you for sharing your story. Please let us know how you get on and we'll do an update.
I will. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and would like more, please don't forget to subscribe. And the best way I can help you out, frankly, if you haven't already taken it, is to go to ripbody.com, add your email into that box, and you'll get my 15-day course on body transformation. It will take you through training setup, nutrition setup, and how to not make the most common mistakes. And I've seen thousands over the years. You'll get our free training programs, the progress tracker that we use for clients, my nutrition setup guide, really everything you need to get you on the path to your own physique transformation. It's all completely free. And if you have any questions, I'm always available in the comments, either on the videos on YouTube, the comments in the articles on the website, or you can send me an email and a reply. All right. Thank you. I'll catch you next time.